You developed a prototype. Now what? Welcome to the My Product Developer podcast, Prototype to Payday. Today we're joined with Peter and Dan, the co-founders of 52 Launch. At My Product Developer, we've had the blessing of working with 52 Launch to help entrepreneurs bring physical products to life. Whether you've dreamed up a new invention or are curious about how products go from idea to market, you're in for a treat. Peter and Dan walk clients from zero to hero, taking them from product idea to revenue every single time.
We always like to use 52 Launch to get our clients to the next stage after we build out their prototypes. They've just been really great to work with, and they're our favorite to partner on these products with.
So welcome, Peter and Dan. Thanks for jumping on with us. We really appreciate your time. We know you're busy.
Yeah, I'm stealing some of your catchphrases. Those are pretty good.
Yeah, I love Zero to Hero. That's the first time I've heard that.
I wrote down
we
process
have to
to pay,
steal that one.
prototype to payday.
Well, Prototype to Payday is the title of our podcast, so you're welcome. You're welcome to not use. No, I'm just kidding. But we wanted to. So first, I wanted to kind of jump in because we talk about how we work together very closely. What happens? What happens after we give you a prototype? After one of our clients takes their prototype to you, what do you guys? What's the process?
Ilya, that's a great question, and I will tell you, I think it's the mentality that you just said. It's prototype to payday. At the end of the day, I think prototypes are going to start becoming more and more manufacturable, right? Like, because what you make, and again, Brandon, before we got on this call, you were showing some different options in mesh, and you're trying to get the concept developed so a consumer or the inventor or whoever is coming up with the idea can then transition to become an entrepreneur. Once they see a prototype and once they see that thing in their hand, the next step is they've got to go and figure out how to manufacture it. And that pretty much means that we're almost starting over. The prototype is no longer just a prototype. It is a stepping stone to get to a manufacturable production order. And what you can make today in a 3D printed world or in a make-believe license world, and I'll get into that more, you guys are very unique. You guys are bringing things to the table that are close enough that we can start taking a look at manufacturing, but you're overcoming that fear that everyone has, is this a good idea? And that's where more people like you guys are needed in the world, more development that's easier, quicker, better, that can help people overcome the, should I do this, should I not do this? Once they decide that they do want to do it, there's very few options that goes end to end like we do. And that's really the relationship that, again, it's been a couple of years now, Brendan, that we've been working together, and we're manufacturing some items now that you guys started off. And that's what everyone today can have an idea and be an inventor. They just have to decide when they want to pull the trigger to be a business owner.
So jumping into that, because this is actually a question I had, I was going to bring up a lot later, but you talked about the fear of jumping in. What do you say to people who are struggling to really jump in and say, I want to do this?
I wish it was a struggle. It's really like everyone loves being comfortable. So what's the back of our shirt say, Dan? You're either day one
or
one day.
Right.
And we want to focus on day one.
Yeah, I also think the comfort, the fear, obviously, look at the most important thing is no one wants to fail at anything, right? None of us do. Unfortunately, failure is part of everything we do in life. If we don't fail, we're not going to get better. And I think the comfort, I think what we provide the client is a bit of comfort knowing that, you talked about zero to hero. Let's use that phrase. We don't want to take on a product or a project that we don't feel comfortable, as to whether it'll be successful or not. I mean, if you end up hiring us, or if Brendan yourself refer someone over to us, we are going to see it through the end. We're not going to take it on unless we're comfortable that it can turn into a business, that the product can actually sell. There's a market for it. There's a value proposition that people will understand easily. We brag a lot about how successful we are as a company bringing products to market, but what people don't understand is that we've weighted everything in our favor because we're not taking bad products to market. And again, we may not be the experts at what's a great idea, but so far, we're batting 1,000. I mean, every product that we've taken has gotten to market. So, it's important that, I think the clients feel that energy with our team and understand that, we use this a lot. Success isn't guaranteed, but failure is not an option. So we get through the process.
I like that. Success isn't guaranteed, but failure is not an option.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective.
Well, that's why we're aligned, right? Guys, these little catchphrases that we've all learned that matter are really your core beliefs. And again, we've learned the hard way. I can't hire employees. I need to hire entrepreneurs or mini entrepreneurs or entrepreneur. Like they have to want to see our clients succeed. Then all obstacles get overcome. And it's just, it's such a different mentality when you have a team of people that want to see our clients succeed and see the product succeed. Then it just kind of happens. So we've been fortunate that way.
So where did this all start for you guys? I mean, like, what made you want to help inventors take their ideas to market?
Well, that's a good story in itself. We've heard it 1,000 times out of Peter, so I'll give it a stab. Yeah, both. So I had owned a successful custom packaging and manufacturing company prior to meeting Peter. If that was still in business, we would be going into our 29th year this year. And really, Pete and I met through a mutual friend. Pete was speaking at an event, and this particular person was there, and Pete had said that he really needed to find, someone that he, could help him manufacture a product, because if he had that, he's got so many people interested in bringing a product to market or helping sell an existing product. And so just on a whim, Peter jumped in the guy's car. The guy was convincing enough to bring him to my office. And, I had just gotten finished with a client that had a fantastic idea. I could make it for her. But, like every entrepreneur, had no money and really didn't know how to sell it either. At that point, I wasn't really involved in the marketing of products. I was involved in the manufacturing of products. And I had just let her leave. And literally, she passed by Peter on the way in to meet me unexpectedly. And we sat down, and within an hour, we realized, there might be an opportunity here. I certainly didn't need a partner. I'm sure Peter wasn't thinking he was going to have a partner, but we decided to start working on some of these projects where Peter's expertise was marketing. Mine was making the product. And we just started, one at a time. And before you knew it, we were, 6, 7 projects into the year. And all of a sudden we felt like, I think we've got a business model here. It seems pretty successful. We formed 52 Launch. 52 Launch acquired my company. So we had some revenue coming in from my, existing business to support the initial growth of building 52 Launch. And here we are today, 10 years in, and over 500 products launched. And our team is, I don't know, up to 40 or 50 people now. It's been an amazing journey. What's nice is that all the things that I just spoke about, Peter had used this word earlier. We were a startup for startups. Well, we're no longer a startup anymore, but we are working with mostly startups. So we have that mentality because we went through it ourselves. It's a journey. We've made hundreds of mistakes throughout that journey. And all of that has turned into being an expert at launching products now because we've gone through this process. So we're not asking any of our clients or future clients to do something for the first time. We've already done it. So, we've already gone through that process ourselves. So there should be a comfort level, and I'm quite certain there is a comfort level for our clients, knowing that we've been there and done that.
Out of curiosity, what was the first project that you guys worked on together? Like, are you guys allowed to? Do you guys remember? Or
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Our first product was that one that I said that woman had walked out of my office. It was the Ardent decarboxylator. So it was essentially a little mini crock pot that decarboxylates or takes the THC out of marijuana, and allows you to then use that for butter or liquid, right, Pete? The liquid turns into a liquid form.
Yeah, it's the THC, and there's a dash A. There's an acid component that you have to burn off in order to get the THC into your bloodstream or to your body. So it's just like right now you get these college kids. They bake weed in the oven. They burn half of it. they yield only a fraction of it. Hers is super efficient. You can put, like how and again, this was all before it was legal in Massachusetts. So Yes on 4 was a big conversation, but had not passed yet. And so we had to kind of, the marketing had to take into consideration that the word decarboxylation is doesn't always refer to making brownies, but
Well, it does.
yeah, I mean, in
But
sous vide,
the
you
wink is,
decarboxylate
yeah, you're
herb.
not going to decarboxylate like cilantro, but
Right. So but that was what we did. Our decarboxylation was for oregano, and everybody kind of got the idea that it was for herbs. Wink, wink. Right. So that was the gist of the campaign, and
that
when
campaign went
when it
viral.
legalized, she blew up. I mean
Yeah,
that's as big as we can say. That was a great idea, great product, great. Look at the challenge with every entrepreneur is lack of funds and overexcitement on how to ambition, right? So ambition, I will tell you, is like it's one of those things that you learn organically along the way. It's important and it's needed, but you have to temper that sometimes to put your ambition to where it counts the most, which is sales, right?
So I've heard you say, guys both say this now, where everyone seems to deal with lack of funds, especially because you guys are working with startups. So where do you recommend that they put their money? Like if they've got like $5,000, $10,000 to make the product and get it there, how do you divvy up that finances?
yeah.
Well,
Well,
maybe this.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
First
Go
and
ahead.
foremost, 5,000 is certainly not enough. As you guys might well know, it's very rare that you could actually bring a product to market with $5,000. But look, it's all the things that I did when I first started my business 30 years ago now, almost 30 years ago. Yeah, I use credit cards. I use credit card, at high interest rates, and I knew that I could pay them off. And I had good credit, so I was able to take out personal credit lines. These are the things that are important if you're, want to, build a business. And then at the same time, most entrepreneurs don't have great credit because they're stretched out so thin, so it's kind of a catch-22. But yeah, that is most important, that you can fund it yourself if you can. Obviously, friends and family are big players with a lot of our clients that hire us. They have friends and family. And I tell you, I mean, no angel investor is going to invest in you if your friends and family are not investing in you, right? Because they know you better than anybody. And if they're not investing in you, there's a reason for it. Yeah, so it's very difficult to get funding from an angel investor. Pete always says that they're called angels because no one's ever seen one before. He might be right there. But again, it's not for everybody. If it were, every person in the world would be self-employed. We would have no laborers, no workers, right? So yeah, it does take some money to do this. But again, having a team around you that's going to prop you up and make sure that you're successful is very important. And we take that very, very seriously because.
Well, I'll just add, I think what Dan said also there is, and in his statement, he said he was confident he could pay it back, right? This is what happens to inventors in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have that confidence. So again, this is where if you only had $5,000, I would start with Brennan. Get me the idea, get me the confidence that I can go get other people confident in the idea. Where there's going to be questions that you're not going to be able to answer is going to be what I can answer. Okay, what do you know about manufacturing? What do you know about launching a product? How do we know this is going to be a market viability? Like what are the things that I need to know? Well, Shark Tank really, I mean, that was where I started. My origin in this, prior to meeting Dan, was watching too much Shark Tank. And I really quickly realized that the number one question is, what are your sales? Right. And then it was 10, 15 years ago, it was, what is your margins and what is your scalability? Who's your manufacturer? Today, it's changed. The number two question is, what's your cost of acquisition? So in order to understand, to invest in any business today, I just need to know three things. I need to know, what are your sales, what's your cost of acquisition, and what are your margins. On those three things, you have a successful business. And that's really where we're transitioning to from being an
As long
invention
as
hub
those three
company.
things line up. Yeah.
Those three things have to line up, right?
Yeah.
You have to see them. If you don't have sales, you have to see traction. Like I'll give you Facebook, for example. That traction when they were tripling their daily new users and they were staying on, that's traction. So those are your two things that you're looking for as an investor. That's really hard to find early stage. Like you've got to get to revenue. So the business model that we came up with is, what do I need? Strip down the plane of everything, strip down the race car. How do I get to the revenue as quickly as we can? Let's make a minimal viable product, something that has a value proposition that's unique. And again, this is where a lot of people don't qualify for our program. If I don't see a unique value proposition, what's the point, right? I don't want to compete in a sea of other things. I need to have that unique value proposition, or that thing that you woke up this morning and couldn't find on Amazon or Google. You know, that's really where there's that's really the new economy. But the third part is, you have to have the confidence to say, I'm going to own my own business and I'm going to do this. And if you don't have those three, you end up like being what I would call a wantrepreneur. And I'm not sure you can ever convince someone that's a wantrepreneur to be an entrepreneur.
The things Brandon's always said, and I really, really appreciated it, is if you have the idea and you have the drive, the money's not far behind. You can find the money. And it's not like I don't have the money to take it to market. There's always ways to get the money. The question is, are you willing to do what it takes to get the money?
All right. Well, Joel, we're going to use this podcast to come up with some coin phrases, since you're really good at it, because the closest thing I can associate it to is fear of missing out. When someone sees that you've taken the actions, you've taken the steps, and they can see that you're not crazy, that the idea is there, the brand is built, and the strategy to go to market's there, that is when the fear of missing out becomes real. There's got to be a better term than that, right? So that's what I'm going to put in your challenge. That's really what people want to, now they should be encouraged to help. And that's where they should be encouraged to see the potential. And that's really what entrepreneurs, that's what they're afraid of. What's my maximum potential? What if this fails? I get everybody revenue. We have a small quantity order that, like, I don't need them to order 10,000 pieces, 1,500 pieces, 1,000 pieces, whatever it is to get started. Because once you have sales, you have traction. Even if it takes you a while to get sales, you have traction. Now you just got to figure out what the data showed. Like, what did it take to get, what's my cost of acquisition? Those are all things that you can improve to get more sales, spend more money, be more efficient, dial in. But we don't ever have to leave first base. To me, first base is that e-commerce platform with inventory in a warehouse that can be shipped out within 24 hours.
A lot of banks want to see you, like, hey, you show us a business plan, and you show a business plan to a bank, and then you have to put up your house, or you have to put up some asset that you have, that's a little risky for many people to do, and not quite sure I would do it that way myself. But Pete's right. When you can order just a few, 1,000 pieces, and you have sales, that answers those questions that we all know are needed to ask for any type of investment. What are your sales? What does it cost you to acquire a customer, which is online sales? And what are your margins? And at that point, you don't have to have a business plan to present a bank, because you've done it. You actually have facts, not assumptions. So it's a lot easier to go get a credit card. It's a lot easier to get maybe a personal loan from a bank. That usually happens after there's been a commitment by the entrepreneur, which goes back to, what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a wantrepreneur? Well, an entrepreneur is going to do all these things. A wantrepreneur, he wants somebody else to do it for him. He wants, or she wants, someone else to fund this idea. It just doesn't happen. You've got to put up the money yourself, and have some risk, have some equity in it. So that next person that invests in you, also believes in you, and you believe in yourself.
How much do you think someone needs to have realistically to get a product to market? I mean, I know this is going to vary greatly depending on complexity, but generally speaking, what do you think is like a good safe threshold where you have a chance to launch it and make some changes to make sure we can correct for the market?
That's a great question. And again, being business for 10 years, taking over 500 people in the market, we can answer that question pretty confidently. Our average client today, over the last 10 years, average client, now that includes soft goods, which are clothing, all the way to medical device products, right? Our average spends about 80 grand to get to market. That includes hiring 52 launch. That includes inventory, includes some marketing dollars and any type of small tooling to actually create your product. And that for a small order, right? So that is what people, on average spend with us for an average product. There are times when people have spent, 50 grand, and there are times when people have spent $300,000, depending on the complexity of the product. But yeah, that's what's needed, and those are factual numbers.
Yeah, and look, here's the other mentality that people have to look at is that no one ever calculates. And again, this is where it's a journey, guys. And again, we've done this so organically ourselves that we didn't build this whole team because it was really like, okay, what's next? And they were like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? So our accelerator program has really transitioned to an end-to-end solution where I want to help you manufacture something, but I'll give you some math, right? The average person, if an item costs $10, the goal for margins has to be 5x, right? Now, maybe not on the first round I can get there, but that means a $10 item that you manufacture for $10 cost should sell for 50 bucks. That's what you have to build and develop. And that's where, again, having that understanding that you're not just building a product to sell to the market, you have to build a product that has the margins and the value. If you're building a $10 item and the value is 12 bucks, don't do this, right? That's where you have to have market research and understanding. But what people don't calculate, so again, I just gave you some numbers. So at $10 per unit, 1,000 units, that's 10 grand. Like that's an achievable number, right? By most people. Now that $1,000 times $50, that's your gross profit of $50,000. So you just netted 40 grand and you got your 10 grand back for your initial investment. Now you can't pocket that. You have expenses that go towards that, but if you manage that correctly and have very little expense to that other than marketing dollars, you should be able to roll over another 25 to 30 grand into your business on your first year. So the goal is crawl, walk, run. How do I get to 1,000 to get to 2,500 to get to 5,000? Once you get past the 5 to 10,000, you'll never need a bank loan unless you want to scale to another level. But you have got the safest e-commerce business at that level on a yearly, biannual, like however you split it up, quarterly, biannually, or yearly. You have the safest revenue stream coming in that's passive.
What do you think about doing pre-sale before you have product to test the market?
Well, unfortunately, all these Kickstarter programs killed that, and I called them out specifically because that was a greatest invention of all times until it got taken over by the wrong people. If Kickstarter and Indiegogo forced every one of their people to actually deliver the product and kept control of the funds, I think they would have been a major success. I think we'd be having a much different conversation. But as greed always capitalizes situations, people market their way through it, and this is again where marketing. Everyone thinks marketing is about the hoopla and I need to sizzle and I need to sale. The reality is you have to be extremely tactical because you do not have the marketing dollars to reach mass audience. We've learned, again, we were part of the Kickstarter campaigns, you need 500,000 to 1 million eyeballs. And you have to pay for those eyeballs to get to a successful campaign. And even then, because you're not Nike, you're a brand new product, you tell me, is a consumer going to feel comfortable dropping $350 on the new item that you're going to bring to market on a Kickstarter campaign and a pre-sale and hope that you're going to deliver it in 90 days? So you're going to lose 90% of the people that would have bought if you could say, I can deliver in the next 24 hours. And that's the difference between Kickstarter. And honestly, like in our model, it's cheaper for us to go right to sales than it is to go through a fake it till you make it type system. If I have 1,000 units, it costs me less money and I don't need to spend as much advertising dollar because everybody that I do show it to will see that they can have it in the next 24 hours and it's not bullshit.
And again, why do we say this? Why are we essentially bashing Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which we don't mean to do? It's just we've been on the other side of it. That's how we initially got our clients. Our clients would call us and say, we just had a campaign and we raised $15,000 and now I got to go make the product. I've got 15 grand. Can I make it? We're like, what? No, you can't make it for 15 grand. You're going to need 100,000 to make this part. They didn't even do the due diligence necessary they went to a prototype company. They had a prototype made, right? That wasn't manufacturable. And they tried to sell that prototype on the campaign. And then when they realized they raised the money to sell the product, then we had to DFM the product to figure out how much it's really going to cost to make. That was way more than they raised. And so we've been part of that. Unfortunately, it's a very sad experience. People still hired us, but Peter's right. You're better off just making the product, having the inventory, because if you do have a very good value proposition, you will sell the product. There's just that. I am living proof of it. I'm sure Pete is as well. Amazon is at my house every single day. I can guarantee you 100% every single day, including Sunday, I have a package delivered to my house because I am one of those people that buy anything that looks cool. And I'm not the only person in the world that does that. So
I got indigo blue lights on my porch. I mean,
exactly. My point is if you've got a good value prop, Amazon's a platform. They've got the world at their beck and call. You'll sell it. And again, going back to margins, that's why it's key to be able to make sure that we're buying it correctly and that we built good value in that product so we can get that money for it. The only thing I would disagree with Pete on is that first order, $10, and then you're making 40 because you're selling it for 50. We're probably not getting it for $10 on the first order because 1,000 pieces, there's no economy of scale. So you might be paying $15 and selling it for 50, which is not bad, but your margins are going to increase after that first order because you're always going to be putting in a bigger order, which is going to decrease the price.
Yeah, the key to lower pricing is volume. Like everyone says, what can we do to lower price? Put in a 1,000,000-piece order. I'll show you how that drops significally, right?
Right.
That's when your factory will give you terms.
Right? We're a crawl, walk, run company. We want to start very conservatively. This is a patience play. It's a marathon, I should say. It's a better analogy. It's not a sprint. And that's one of the things that we always have to explain to our clients is that, it's not a sprint. Unless you have a boatload of money, it can become a sprint, but it's not the right way to do it, in our opinion. It's better to do it the way
even then I can share the story of Lavalunch, right? Like we had clients that had boatloads of money and they spent it it's an item they spent $9 or $8 or whatever it was, and they were selling it for 12, and they were spending thousands of dollars in advertising per hour to try and get volume up. You can't always spend your way through success. You have to figure out your organic audience. You have to be extremely targeted. And I will tell you, this is really what's changed in the last 3 years. Marketing is no longer about hype and BS. It is about targeted, strategic placement of your ads in front of the person who's most likely to need your buy. So between keywords, you're pulling them in. Between meta, you're pushing out messaging to people that you can identify are in there. And it does not take the big social media push. It doesn't take thousands of dollars of content. It doesn't take tens of thousands of people on a team. It just takes very smart people to understand where you got to place your product every day.
So I want to go back just a bit because you had mentioned the Kickstarters, the people who made $15,000 and are like, now we got to make the product. What happens to those people if the product if they can't make the product? Like, what does that look like?
I'll give you the phone number offline, Joel. You can figure it out. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just
they're
curious.
Still where they are. They're hopeful and they're begging and they're trying to get someone to put up the rest of the money. And the reality is, that's what are you going to do to deliver it? And then you got to still go through the next sales process, right? You got to go out and sell it again. I wish if there's one message that I can help everybody understand, the guy that invented the Ethernet cable, the Cat5, you hardwire in, he's credited as the quote, and you guys can look up his name, but he said, you don't make money on your invention, you make money on selling your product that you invented. And that's really the key difference. You are in product sales. You have the ability now to have something that sells in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. Talk about the best passive revenue system that you could have, grow into. That's where the mentality shift is. Again, I'm on a personal mission. I don't know if Dan's on this quest, but my enthusiasm here is about, I want to change everybody's mindset. I am so done with people who think that you can have an invention and someone's going to give you $1 million without doing any of the effort. You've heard it on Shark Tank. It's all the execution. It's got 1% of the inventor. It is about executing. And here's the thing that I'm very proud of. The two of us decided a long time ago, we do not take equity in anybody's company. We are here to help inventors and entrepreneurs capitalize on their dream, get this manufactured, help them through the hard parts. our opportunity to invest in our inventors comes down the road. When they start getting to that point where they have sold 10,000, 20,000, then we got to start talking about containers coming in. That is where you need bank financing, or you need a couple of guys that know this is the time, because we have the information. We know how much it's going to sell for. We know the availability. We know what we need to do. I am better suited to take those over. And that's really our goal now, is I'm trying to make sure that all of our clients understand the bigger picture. Because if you're going to do this right and do it well, because there's a million shitty products on Amazon that are selling in the millions every day. Why not yours?
Yeah, very well said.
So, are there any consistencies that you've seen through all the products that you guys have worked with, all the entrepreneurs? Are there any consistencies that you can accurately predict success or failure with?
Yeah, no. It's drive, and like I could tell you, yes, I'd be lying. Lobster nativity scene, if I told you, and you can look it up, lobster nativity scene. Go buy one from Chris. This is a project we said no to, and then the lady that invented it forced us into, like, literally forced us to say, guilted us into is maybe the better word. That, if you don't, I know you guys aren't going to take this on, but if you don't let me hire you, I'm going to go somewhere else, and they're going to take my money and they're not going to deliver. I know you guys will deliver on it, and we delivered on it. And this thing is just a ridiculous product that sells incredibly well at Christmas time. I'm kind of a different tune than Mr. Wonderful. Like, they all don't like seasonal products. Well, I can tell you our best products have been seasonal products. Like, look up Amazing Egg Decorator. I don't know what they did last year, but a couple of years ago, it was circulated out there that they'd broken the $20 million, $200 million mark. So, um, all I know is unique sells. If you can stand out and be different and break tradition and do something that is identifiably different in a market, you're okay.
How does Amazon play into y'all's marketing or your distribution?
I'd say it is the most difficult platform to master and understand, but it is the best platform to grow your business on. There's a couple things I love about Amazon. Look at the market. Like, I got on Amazon just before I got on this call. Guess what? When you go on Amazon, you're spending, it's guaranteed money spent. So it's a captive audience. Someone going on Amazon is not kicking tires. They're here to buy something.
Right.
So that is the magic of Amazon. What I like about being able to create, now that Meta is starting to catch up, I wish Amazon gave us a customer list, right? Like, that's where we're blind. That is the value. The more you can capture what your client profile looks like, long term, the better off you can grow your business. And that's really
that is exactly Amazon's model. They're not a retailer. They're a data collection company.
Correct.
That's what they do. They're the largest data collection. They have more names than any company in the world. So that's their business model. So that's why they don't share it with us.
Yeah, and look at that.
Yep.
Again, for small business owners, right? That's really what we help develop, is product. There's small business owners that can grow into, and man, again, if you stay on first base, you don't need to hire anybody else other than us to manage the back end of your business. That's what we do. As far as reorders, time to put in the next order. If it gets too big for you, we've made some acquisitions and we've made some partnership agreements. So, that's where we are now in that phase where I'd say in the next 10 years, we are, that's going to be our business model, like complete end to end, where, we fund, finance, and grow our companies.
So if Amazon doesn't give you that information, where would you get that information from?
You pay Amazon for it.
Do you have to pay for it?
Called advertising.
It's advertising, right? Yeah.
Same with Google. Google's got the keywords that they know that are going to bring business to you, but you got to pay for it, and you're mostly wrong 70% of the time, and that 30% gives you enough business that you're like, okay, I got to keep spending it. And you always have the hope that you can get to the 45% threshold, that now I'm winning a little bit, and then they change the algorithm, and now you're back to the 30%. So, it's a constant.
You guys
advertising never stops changing.
Yeah, you guys are too young for this, but back in the day, the biggest company in the world was Walmart, other than say Microsoft, but I mean Walmart still I think was bigger than Microsoft. Oh, yeah. Walmart's the biggest because they're a huge, gigantic retailer, right? How long did it take Amazon to surpass Walmart? Well, it took Walmart 100 years to get to where they are. Amazon, I think it was like 8 years they surpassed Walmart sales, and now they're the second largest company in the world. So, um, and then Google's obviously in the top, maybe top 5 or top 10 for sure. So there's a reason for that, and that's where everybody goes now. So you can't buck the system. You got to advertise on the platforms that people are visiting.
What are your favorite go-to-market strategies? What do you guys
Well, look,
tend to see work the best?
that's where it's all different. I'm going to tell you, we have a product right now that targets municipalities. So that's a whole different strategy. That's going to be LinkedIn. Believe it or not, products that are part of like renovations or DIY projects. Um, that's Pinterest. Pinterest is an underutilized product place where you can sell. Obviously your traditional ones are Meta. With Meta and Google AdWords, you could spend a fortune being wrong very quickly. You have to have your tracking and measurements in place. You have to understand, are you on target? If you're showing the right people the right message and they can start sharing it. I look at shares. That's the most important value in social media. Someone sharing something, that means you're either in that funny zone where you're sharing it, or you're sharing it because, hey, I know you would want this, Joel. And so that's the two criteria you need to look at. If it's being shared, it's because we're friends and I've shown you some stuff like that, I find funny and you find funny. Or I think there's a product that you'd be interested in that fits your fishing habit, that fits your, skiing habit, or whatever I know about you.
We might have talked a little bit about this already, but I'm curious, what is the wildest product that you guys have taken to market? And you're like, man, this actually succeeded. I did not expect that.
Well, I think Peter alluded to it. The lobster activity for sure is one of them. Look, we've brought some feminine hygiene products to market, some adult toys, I guess, or
Yeah.
to market, which I guess is not out of the norm. But I'm trying to think of. I mean, look, I never thought that Amazing Egg Decorator was going to blow up to, $200 million.
To be a household name today, to absolutely.
Amazing is a household name. Amazing's no different than the Game of Life or Monopoly, right? They're well known. And I never saw that. Peter did, to his credit, thought that was going to be a
well,
big,
look, I think realistically they were probably in the first year, right? So the adage of $10 million or 10 years to become a household brand, like that's the other thing people don't understand is that there's products that are selling in the millions every day that like no one ever knows about. That's a product sale, right? Like back in the early days, we had a woman that like all she did was buy charcoal and we bagged it for her and she sold it on Amazon to whiten your teeth. So well before anybody knew about charcoal whitening your teeth, she was selling $6,000, $7,000 a week in that stuff. I can tell you, charcoal does not cost $6,000 to $7,000 to bag and put out there.
That's why I forgot about that. You're right.
Exactly. There's products we've forgotten about that. That's how long it's been. So, look at anything that you can put out there. I think in today's world, you got homeschool, you got the conversation about education changing. I do believe that, again, we have kid entrepreneurs. We have kids that have told or convinced their parents, or their parents have seen an idea. And I do think that is the future of this economy. You can wake up in the morning as a kid, have an idea, download some software, 3D print it, and go and show mom and dad.
Great content. You guys are all great content creators at your age. You grew up with it. Pete, you're right. That's probably what's going to happen. We've had it already happen. We've had people hire us to get their kids into a good college.
Yeah, I do think that this has to be a high school course. I think it's got to be something that, just like you have a vocational school, I think there needs to be a separate garage for entrepreneurs or potential inventors and entrepreneurs to go and figure out what the next thing is.
Yeah. Joel's writing that down.
They're called engineers, but
he's stealing that idea from us, Pete.
What's that?
He's stealing that idea from us right now.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I think I've started like 7 businesses, and I just am closing down my latest one. So I'm always looking for new businesses.
Well, look at, and that's the true entrepreneur, right? Like you don't shut down, you progress up. Again, prior to meeting Dan, I can give you a list of like names that I started. I had Reach Frog Marketing. I had a company called Driving Up Sales. I had all these stepping stones that led me to understand each process and each step and who I didn't want to work with and who I enjoyed working with. And so for me, I come out of the car business, that was a pretty grueling 25-year career. And when I say grueling, it's just, you're there from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night and you're cranking cars and you're dealing with, people and problems and all kinds of stuff. Fantastic business. Just the people that I have to work with sucked, so that wears on you after 25 years. So kind of being able to walk
How's that
away
any
from that.
different than what you're doing now? Great
Well,
business, but the people you work for stink, like me.
well, at least I'm making money, I guess. No, no. At the end of the day, the people that I enjoy the most were the customers on all scales, right? I love being able to help people that come in and say, I've got this idea, and I want to get this done. Just like when they came in, I want to buy a Camry with whatever, I want to buy a Toyota, or I want to. It's just helping people get through the process and getting it completed. And look at, I'm the one who sits on the podcast, and so does Dan at the end of the experience. Most businesses, you sell it and you stay away from it. And in our business, I could fill my a room with all of our inventors and entrepreneurs that have been through the program at any stage, and we're gonna have a fun time.
Love it. I love it. So
Actually, it'd be more like a hotel now, not a room.
Well, we've done that in Texas. Yeah,
Yes.
that was a very good time.
what did you guys do in Texas? Sorry, I'm
Well, so we've had a couple occasions. We've been invited to pitch events. So with it, like again, QVC or no, it's HSN that we got invited to Nashville, and I think we had about 25 of our early entrepreneurs that we helped them book it, get down there. We went down there with them, and so we're not afraid to be in the same room at any stage with all of our clients. I mean, that's just we're on the same journey. And then we had the same opportunity in Texas in 2023 through it was a startup company. The guys that did Celsius. It was their kind of gig. They let us run an event there, and they had some inventors or
Part of
call it,
Texas
investors
A&M
show
as
up.
well. Yeah.
So
so if I've got so I've already gotten probably a bit of this, but I want to kind of see if I can get a concise, like 2 or 3 things that I should know if if I've got a product idea and I'm like, this is what I want to do with it. What are your top advice for those, like top 2 or 3 things that you're like, you need to know this?
well, there's 3 parts to it. This is a good idea. Do I have the finances, and do I have the lack of fear to start it, or the confidence needed to go forward? So finances, that's the journey. People will help. Like Brendan's best description is get started. The money will follow. The fear, if you're afraid, take your idea, get it made in your garage. Get someone like Brendan to help you out so you can demonstrate it. Show it to 20 of your closest friends. If 20 of them put their hands up and say it's a good idea, go forward. There's your confidence. That comes from a buyer at Brookstone, as well as another buyer that used to work at Bed Bath and Beyond. Like, that's the test. If 16 people like it, you still move forward with it, and you figure out how to get the other 20 people or the other 4 or 5 people that said no. The last part is, if 10 people say I hate it and 10 people say, now you got to make a decision. What can you improve? And you listen to the consumer. The consumer is the most important part of this whole thing. I don't build a product. I build something. My design team, all the people I have out there, understand consumer behavior. And that's the biggest part. How does a consumer use it? Is it intuitive the way a consumer would use it? If they're left-handed, if they're right-handed, like these are all things that, if they don't know how to open a package or they don't know how to assemble it, like when you see a product, you should be automatically understand how it uses. If you have to add more description, that's fine. You have to start educating people, it gets expensive. So that's kind of that fine line where I look at. And then lastly is just, you're better off surviving one more day than financing another day. So figure out how not to spend your money and stay safe. Inventory that is in your vault will always 5x when you decide that you want to go and sell it. There's no such thing as bad inventory.
What do you think of people that let the NDA or a legal disclosure stop them from moving forward? In our business, it seems to be one of the biggest hurdles of,
Move on. Honest to God, because like I love the people that want to protect the idea. Then they've got no money. Well, look, you got 2 choices. You either got to go raise funds, which means you got to tell everybody about your idea to go raise the money, or you got to keep it such a secret that you don't want to talk to anybody. I can't help you if that's the second. Like non-disclosures, I can't sign a non-disclosure that's more than a year. I respect non-disclosures. I want to sign it so that we can have open conversation. But the minute you say no, I'm out. I'm going to move on. I like these people that want to succeed without doing the work are the ones that always typically want the non-disclosure signed. They want to dot their T's, cross their I's. And look at, if I'm being hard on you, I'll be honest. I'm like Dave Portnoy at this point. I've had 10 million pizza reviews. I know what I'm doing. This isn't a matter of like expertise. I will tell you, I have a whole category of entrepreneurs, people that, how much easier can I make it for you to get started and you still can't start? That means you're forever a entrepreneur. Please write that down. Take that at heart. Understand that. I don't care if I've insulted you. Take it and understand it. Your job is to become an entrepreneur, not to stay being a entrepreneur.
Yeah, I definitely understand your passion on that. I mean, all of my biggest clients, the wealthiest, I've never seen them get hung up on an NDA before. I would say it's the amateur entrepreneurs that don't understand that the struggle is getting out there. And I always tell them, like, if you hold on to this, it's going to be the best kept secret. Do you want to be the best kept secret, or do you want to risk somebody? And it's kind of a small chance, in my opinion, if someone wanted to rip you off until you cross the certain threshold, right? But by then, it's a different story that we're having.
Well, it's a much different story. It's just a matter of time. So first of all, I'll say the second thing. If you think that you're the only one that has your idea, working on it to get it to market, the only difference between you and someone else, or the 3 million other people that have the same idea, is that less than 1% is going to take an action to move forward. So if you're not the one, then you're not the one. Let me ask you, I've seen some really good ideas. And I personally, again, I'm not going to steal an idea. It's not who we are. But I personally think it's unfair that if you don't move forward and get your idea to market, you're actually not doing a service to society. So pretty pleased with sugar on top. Move on and give it to someone else who can get it done.
Yeah, that's really well said.
So yeah, now you're sitting some key nerve points, but been doing this long enough.
I'm the same way, because it's the ones that you can tell it's their first go at this. It's their first like introduction to, hey, I have an idea, I don't know what to do, I'm scared someone's gonna take it. Those are the ones that hide behind the NDAs and get caught up in these negotiations that don't really ever get past there. And I politely want to politely want to tell them, like, hey, you've got to man up and take on some risk, but with no risk, there's no way forward. So,
and I'll add one more to that. Look at, before someone hires you or me, the first place that they start is I have an invention. So I'm going to be careful here because they're bigger than I am at this point. But there's invention help companies who, that's what they sell, Brennan. They sell you a $5,000 package because, like you said, every entrepreneur or inventor has $5,000. Now it's a matter of, where do you start with it? So the easiest way is the legalese, right? I don't throw the patent attorneys on the bus. I think they're doing their job. But before someone gets to a patent attorney, they've gotten to some other invention help company that says, first thing I do is get you spend $5,000 so I can get you non-disclosure agreements, I can get you some drawings, I can get you some stuff, and all it is it's maybe $1,500 worth of cost to them, and it is zero ability for an entrepreneur to move forward with what they just got handed, but they're indoctrinated to it. So that's why automatically I tell you, I am not on a mission to change the industry. I'm on a mission and on a quest to change the mindset of the industry. The mindset is, don't be a DIYer. You cannot, like, that's the opposite side. There's the people who want everybody to do the work for them and pay for it and fund it. And then there's the person that's the DIY. Like, I want to just do it all myself. I'm going to tell you, I have an entire team, and there are days where I question, can we get something done? If you think you can handle it without a team, God bless you. And if you start looking at, well, I can do this with Kickstarter and I can do this with, then you've been sold a bill of goods that you're going to find out $200,000-$300,000 later that you could have actually launched your product and done it. Maybe I'm starting to also become that, there's a term, boring business. It is not boring, but we have a boring model. Our boring model is to get to revenue quickly and effectively and not waste money on things that are frivolous or don't create revenue. That's it. I need product to create revenue. I need a tool to make the product. That is the only expenses outside of me. outside, maybe on an electronic engineering, I might need to bring someone in that knows how to put a schematic together or give me a Gerber file, because I don't have that on staff. I don't do that. We do it, but that's real high end expertise. Or maybe I've got people that have to build an app, and when you have to put an app and a product together, that is like the most lethal, hardest combination of things that you can do if you're not doing it under one camp. So that's it. Everything else is doable. But if you're spending money on the shortcuts, there's an abundance. 90% of the companies that we compete against, Brennan, sound like us, but are not us. And that's the difference. That's why we get along. That's why you guys together, and we're able to see those clients succeed. So we're in the same fight. That's why I'm on your podcast, because the more I can help, the more I'm helping the same client that we're working on.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I explained this to you, but before I met you guys, I was on a search for 5 years for you guys. Like I had talked to multiple of these other companies that do the same thing, but did not deliver the results. The closest I came to was another company. I think they charged around $100,000, and that was just on setting up manufacturing. And at the time, that was the best option that I had, and you guys were doing everything. I mean, I think, one of the biggest things that's hard for me to get across to my clients is the product is not the hardest part. The product is the easy part, and you better put your big boy pants on and get ready, because it is a challenge, but you can work through it. And having a team and a proven system makes all the difference.
So
are you buying a franchise, or are you trying to invent the wheel?
What you just said there is the mindset that we have to change, one person at a time. And look, we're pretty successful at all the competitors. Like, I know the keywords that they use. I'm up against them every day. I'm not going to name the name that you just said, but the companies that help you line up with a manufacturer, those, and they're going to do all the design work for you, and then you're going to introduce your manufacturer. I know where they fail, because guess who gets called after that? I do. The manufacturer sucked. They didn't deliver. They can't do what was promised. Same thing with the invention help type companies. They all promise this miracle licensing deal that all you have to do is come up with the idea and someone's going to pay you millions of dollars. Read the fine print on their website. They're legally obligated, because they've been sued so many times, that they have to put on there that you have a 3% chance of getting a license deal. And out of that 3% chance, you have less than a 1% chance of actually recouping your money if you got a license deal. So you tell me what those odds are versus, look at, if I could just get everybody to revenue, which we have gotten everybody to revenue, and Joel, to your point, I always have 70, 80 people in the pipeline, but as of right now, I have not had a failure in terms of getting to that revenue standpoint. Now, revenue is very vague, and it can be very big. I've got every scenario there you can imagine. But if your goal is not to get to revenue, I don't know why you're taking on this venture. Like, if everything that you do is an investment, then why would you not want to get a return on your investment? And that is the mental mindset that you have to understand. And it's not hard. It's scary, but it's not hard. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'll forget it and say it. It's one of the challenges we have is when someone calls us and they have a patent, they spend money on a patent. Fantastic, they did that. And now they want someone to buy their patent from them, or a license deal. And again, just as you guys alluded to, there's a lot of work that needs to still be done. Just because you have a patent on something doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. And just because you have a patent doesn't mean it's going to be protected either. Because even if you have a patent and you go up against a giant who's got billions of dollars and you have hundreds of dollars, you're not going to win that case either. So,
well, that's not even to mention the third category. The chances are, with the amount of patents that we've seen, your patent has no teeth whatsoever. Like, what usually gets filtered out and what you get patented is like, it's a joke. The process should be, once you have the product developed and designed, to understand what you can and can't patent.
Exactly.
Then you can write a patent that is much stronger to what you have in your hand that you're going to be selling.
Right. That's a very, very good, poignant comment to make. And again, unfortunately, we can't fix that because we have people coming to us with a patent already, which is fine. But there's a lot, there's things that are done backwards that it's hard to unchange those things. But again, as far as I'm concerned, you alluded to it, Brandon, when you said, you've been quoted $100,000. Maybe that means Pete and I should go up on our pricing, which we don't. Very rarely do we do that. But we don't hang our hat on those fees. We hang our hat on the manufacturer of your product, because Pete uses this word on a regular basis. We become symbiotic. We're not a partner in a sense of a financial partner for our clients, but we are symbiotic in that we are a true partner because we're making the product, and we only make money when we make the product. We only make more money when we get a reorder. I mean, how much money can you make on 1,000 pieces of something that costs $10, and maybe we have $2 invested in for margin in that? That's $2,000. No one's getting excited about making $2,000. So we practice what we preach. This is a marathon. We play the long game. We're with you from initial idea to revenue, and we stay with you and help you grow your business. And if that's all too much for our clients, they don't have that marathon mentality, they want to be a sprinter. Well, after the first order, if they don't want to be doing this anymore, unlike our competition who gives you a promise of a licensing deal that you'll never see, we actually will acquire our clients, and we will give them a real royalty deal, which they actually will receive money because we will be making and selling the product for them. So I've always said this to Pete, and I know it sounds very self-promoting, but we are the best company to hire if you've got a product idea, because really there's very little risk that we see, because we wouldn't let you hire us if we didn't think you had a great idea. If you get frustrated and it's just too long of an investment to make, then we're there to pick up the pieces and acquire the company because we love the product, or we wouldn't let you hire us. So we will go ahead and pick up the pieces, make that second order, third order, spend all the money on marketing because we believe in the product. So, again, success isn't guaranteed, but failure is not an option. That's our credo. That's our mentality. And it even goes to the fact that, if you run out of money, after that first production order, we're there to pick up the pieces.
Well, Joel, I think what we can do is, I don't know if there's more stuff you want to cover, but I'm going to say there's another podcast that we can sit down and talk about the actual generational differences between entrepreneurs, from boomers. Dan's the boomer, I'm the Gen X. Millennials right now is the big clientele that is probably the most difficult to deal with, because they're anti-boomers and Gen Xers, to give them the cautionary tales, and they think they can do it themselves, and that's where they're starting to get in trouble. And I'm seeing that. I would actually say that Gen Z is our most surprising client right now, that because they have Gen X parents, there's a conversation going on that the funding is happening there. So I am focused on the Gen Z model right now and trying to figure out the millennial model ourselves.
Well, look at the millennial model.
I get that.
The millennials are about to receive trillions of dollars from us baby boomers, right?
Correct.
So that's going to be the richest, by far the richest generation there ever was.
I wish that we will be able to use the money properly, because as of right now, I don't see my generation being very wise with their finances, and I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to see there's so much money that's going to be handed down fairly soon here, and it's already started, and I see my generation just squandering it when they could be using it to actually do some real good.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
like I said, we'll invite a millennial group on this podcast to understand that, because I can only give you Asian wisdom. I got stuck in the middle. I'm a Gen Xer, so I had to learn from the boomers and then relearn from the millennials and stay afloat. And so I have a lot of wisdom on both ends that, I think, thank God my kids are Gen Z, because the money you're going to squander is going to go to them.
I'm not going to go too far into that. I have what I call a lightning round for you guys. So I've got about 5 questions, and it's just going to be really, really quick, hopefully really quick answers. And then we could wrap this up. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the first one is, what is the first product you ever launched, and was it successful or not?
Probably have different answers. Mine was, my first experience was a product called Judy Bar, and it was a food product, and I learned a lot of things. And it wasn't my product. That was probably my first client that hired me to help him sell something they'd already manufactured. I had no control over the formula, or else I would have said add more fat, more sugar, and more chocolate. Then it would have sold.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah. Well, it's going to sound boasting, but the product that I invented was the photo storage box. It's the shoe box with a brass plate riveted to the front. And back before digital cameras, you would organize all of your photos in an acid-free box that was wrapped in a pretty wrapping paper. And let's just say that hundreds of millions of those have been sold. And yeah.
He's done okay.
It's pretty much where I got my wealth, that one product. So
Okay, so this next question is kind of...
I'm definitely an inventor of a product that, very similar to Eggmazing, where, that's why we love the space. That's why Pete and I love the space so much. It just gives people an opportunity.
So the next one, I've got two questions, but it's kind of in one here. So what is your favorite invention of all time that you guys have found? Like your favorite, the favorite thing that you've seen grow. And the second one is, what is your favorite product that you guys have brought to market that you guys are like, man, I just love this thing?
Well, so you can't ever talk about which one of your children is a favorite. Just does not bode well for the type of company we're in. I will tell you, if I didn't see unique value proposition in every one of our clients, I'd say, there's some ones that I don't understand, but they've done really well. My favorite ones are probably the golf product, only because I know it's really hard to bring a golf product or a backyard game to market that isn't going to be successful. Just an easier path to revenue. So that would be my answer.
I want to jump back to the previous conversation about patents.
Yeah.
When do you guys think is the appropriate time to look at a patent? Is it every product? Is there a certain time or a certain point where you say, this is where we start to recommend?
Yeah, this is what I'm making. The minute you say this is what I'm making and the manufacturer's got it flushed out and you've got the cost to manufacture it, the cost of tooling, that is exactly the time to say this is what I'm patenting.
Awesome.
Okay, that's actually good advice, because I keep hearing different answers from the patent attorneys. Say patent it first. The engineers say design it first. And so what I'm hearing is it's actually a lot further down the line than most people think.
Look, there's not a wrong answer. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a wrong answer. Look, we love patent attorneys. We work with a lot of them, hundreds of them. There's no wrong time to do it. It's just the challenge is that you can file for a patent, but then all of a sudden, if there's going to be a challenge with the manufacturing process, or if there's another value proposition that we feel is even better of a patentable item, then we're going to have to make changes to it. That's all. And it just means more money. But look at, some will tell you, don't tell anybody, patent it so no one steals it. The other thing is just keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody. I mean, sign non-disclosures, which every one of our clients does. Every one of our factories is under our non-disclosure. So, people are protected when they hire us. And, so filing for a patent at any point in time is good. And look at, not everything needs to be patented. I didn't patent my photo storage box. And because I knew it was going to get knocked off and I wasn't going to spend good money to fight it. I just was first to market and I had a great run. We tell our clients the same thing. Sometimes it's better not to file one unless you plan on selling your company. Obviously, having patents on a product that is extremely unique is a good value. But I wouldn't make that necessary commitment the sole reason, or the number one financial reason is to invest in a patent. I'd get to market first.
Well, and that is, I think, the evaluation of the answer, Joel. It's for your own mindset. If you had all the money in the world, what's the right answer? If you have no money in the world, what's the right answer?
Right.
Like, I think it's a sliding scale of when it becomes the right answer. Again, in our process, just with our clients who have limited funds, we work on a limited runway. The optimal time for us is when you know exactly what you're making, because it's the most efficient time. If you've got all the money in the world and you can patent all the 70 different ways you can make something, go for it. That's not our client.
Okay. Brandon, did you have any more questions?
Not at this moment.
All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share with people?
Well, first, I want to say thank you guys for having us on. I mean, it's great that you guys are doing this. extremely important. I think podcasts are a great way of, being educated on certain things. Um, and yeah, we appreciate what you do. We certainly appreciate what Brandon does when we first met him. And, he's that front facing person with the client that has to deal with, the intricacies of,
over the shoulder. Here's what we're
yeah.
change this, move that, get it over here. Can you change the color? Look at
And
that.
that's a
Is
perfect
so
example.
time consuming.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of, we said, hell, we wouldn't do that. I mean, kudos to you for doing that, but you found a niche and you clearly are good at it. Your clients love you. So, they do. I mean, everyone you've turned over to us, they absolutely love you. But again, that's, you play a vital part in that early stage of helping a product, see their vision. And that's important. And look at the clients that you turn over to us are some of our better clients because they've gone through that phase with you and, you've educated them. So they're, tend to be a little easier to work with.
Yeah, I'll finish the sentence. So they're easier to work with because they've been educated and they understand. And when we give them options that they didn't think of, they're like, oh yeah, okay, Brendan kind of mentioned that, but like now I understand it, right? When they're so focused on their, like I'll say, like in the A through Z process, you're in the C's, we're in the D's. You're in the creative concept, I'm in the development of the actual product. So, and then there's still a lot of alphabet left to go to get to the actual launch, but people have a different mindset when they just want to see the creativity of their idea come to life. They don't understand the development of it. So it is a process that has to happen. That's why for us, I like when someone comes to us with a prototype. That is our best client. Someone who has some business acumen. That's a client that I don't have to educate. That's unfortunately what we are working on right now. And I say that, in 10 years, we're really good at doing. We're very expert at what we do. I don't have necessarily the classrooms needed to educate you as much as I'd like to along the way. And that's why we get on these podcasts. We're developing more. Joel, you met Michelle. That's our whole goal for 2026 to be able to launch an entire library of podcasts that speak to the specifics of everything that needs to go into it.
I love it. I just want to say thank you so much, guys, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your heart, the advice, and your stories. We love hearing your stories as well. Where can we send people to connect with you guys?
Our website's pretty easy to navigate. Like again, if someone wants to, first of all of our consultations are free. You go to our website, you'll click on the make a consultation. We don't charge any money until we've figured out what we're doing, how we're going to execute on it, and if the idea is good or not, right? And even then, we don't push people. It becomes a when conversation. I've got a, in our CRM, I have a thing called out to pasture. It is not meant to be condescending. It is meant to say, here's what we have. Here's all the information you need to know. Now go graze on the grass and come back when you're ready. All the cows do come home to roost, but it's more when you're ready. If you're not ready, then it becomes more emotional. It becomes more of a scary thing. You just have to be prepared. And again, if you're scared, that's what we're here to do. We're not like it's a normal Tuesday around here or Friday around here for us, or it's finances, which means get started and get people to help you.
That's great advice, Pete. And yeah, just to reiterate that, there is no pressure on our end whatsoever. Our pipeline is pretty full. We have enough business for the next 5 years coming in. So obviously we make room for more as we continue to grow. But yeah, there's no pressure on our end. We truly have to love the product as much as you do in order for you to let us hire us. And I know that sounds arrogant, but it's a protection for both of us. We don't want to fail any client, and we don't want you to fail. I mean, you're spending a lot of money. So we completely understand that. We've gone through it ourselves over the last 10 years.
Perfect. Once again, this is Peter and Dan from 52 Launch. Their website is 52launch.com. Go check